Hey guys, what's going on? SpitBrix here, back for another LEGO Ninjago video, and in this video, we're going to be checking out the best minifigure from each season of Ninjago. Each season has its own wave of sets, in which I'm going to be expressing my favorite minifigure from each season in this video. Keep in mind that this is mostly my opinion, your guys's may be different, so be sure to comment down below your guys's favorite minifigure from each season as we go through it. If you go on to enjoy this video, be sure to let me know with a like rating down below, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. For this video, I've kind of combined Season 10 and Legacy, but you'll see what I do. I do something a little bit special, so be sure to stay tuned for that part of the video. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in, because we have a lot of seasons to cover. First up, we have the pilot season of Ninjago, which included the very first year of sets that were released. This pilot season really created the backbone that Ninjago was to be built off of for future seasons. We had the original 4 ninja, as well as the golden weapons, their elemental powers, and of course Sensei Wu and Nia. Up against them was the Skullkin, and my pick for my favorite minifigure of this season has got to be Samukai. I mean, look at this guy. He's crazy. We don't really have any other minifigures that are like him. This figure was immensely popular at the time, and he still is to this day. We never got a remake of him for Ninjago Legacy, and so he's still a highly desirable figure. He has that really crazy looking spine on the very back of him. All of that on the very top is a huge molded piece, and then the jaw can also come off and on. This guy came in only 2 sets back in 2011, the first one being Garmadon's Dark Fortress, and the other one being the Fire Temple, so 2 relatively expensive sets. Samukai was the main general of the Skullkin before Garmadon came down to the underworld, but he still remained a very important character for the season as a whole. Next up, we have the first official TV episode series of Ninjago, which ended up going as Season 1, although technically we do have pilot before this. Really, that's just how the numbers go. We have the Serpentine season here, some amazing minifigures. This has got to be my favorite season of Ninjago by far, still to this day, and if we're not including Spitta in the mix for me picking my minifigure, because I really think that we should, branch out a little bit, pick a different minifigure, I have got to choose Energy J. This is a fantastic figure. It's got to be one of my favorite Ninjago minifigures of all time. This guy's printing on him is crazy with all those lightning bolts coming out of him, and even with that deep blue head with all the printing there on the eyes, this guy only came in his spinner set back from 2012. This was a highly desirable set as well. I had to order this guy off of eBay, I believe, back then, because these spinners were so popular back in the day. It was pretty ridiculous. They were always sold out in stores, at least by me, but this guy is definitely one of my favorite minifigures of Ninjago, definitely worthy of this spot. I mean, look how awesome this minifigure looks. Continuing on, we have the final battle season of Ninjago, and for this one, it's pretty obvious, I think, what the best minifigure is. I think we can all agree that it's gotta be the Golden Ninja Lloyd, or the Ultimate Spinjitzu Master. This minifigure came in the original Golden Dragon set back from 2013. We've gotten a remake of him for Ninjago Legacy, which you guys probably may have. And at the time, a completely gold minifigure was cool as it is, but this guy was from Ninjago. He came in only around a $30 set, which was a great deal, and of course, well, this is the final battle, supposedly, right? They ended up continuing Ninjago as we know, but this was the final battle season, which was supposed to be the last season of Ninjago, and they definitely went out with a bang with this minifigure, but it would definitely return. Ninjago returned after a short hiatus with the Rebooted season, or Season 3. In this season, we got the minifigures of the ninja with their hair pieces, which was really awesome at the time, but my favorite choice for this season was one of the new characters introduced. We have Pixel, and although she isn't the most flashy minifigure, she was a cool character to be added to the TV show, and as we're talking about Pixel here, I think it's very important to also feature Zane, because, well, let's be honest, Zane made the ultimate sacrifice in this season, and so I do want to point out this minifigure here. Both this Zane minifigure as well as Pixel came in the Ninja Copter set, and I specifically like this Zane minifigure here because of that torso print. You guys can see his inner core in there with the little zaps coming out of it, as well as half of his face being ripped up off, and you can see the inner workings of his eye and facial parts. Rebooted was certainly an iconic season of Ninjago, and just as a side note, who else remembers Zane's old Falcon? I really want that guy coming back in the show. I always loved the Falcon of Zane's. Moving on, we have Season 4, Tournament of Elements, and in this season we got Chen, but I decided not to place him as my favorite minifigure of the season. Instead, I picked Skylar, another new character, kind of similar to how I picked Pixel for Rebooted, but I really like this minifigure, not just that she's a new character, but she did play a very good role in the season. She is obviously the master of Amber, which is arguably one of the most powerful elemental powers that you can have, not to mention this really interesting orange-yellow color that she possesses with her ninja robes. This minifigure only came in one set for the Tournament of Elements. It wasn't necessarily an expensive one, but the minifigure here is just super unique. Now here's one of the fan favorite seasons of Ninjago. We have Possession, and as far as the best minifigure of this season, I have to give it to the evil green ninja minifigure, or Possessed Lloyd, however you want to look at it, however you want to call this minifigure. Nonetheless, here he is, and this is a fantastic figure. He came in a couple sets for this wave, and what really stood out was that molded piece that went over the minifigure head. I mean, this thing was pretty crazy. It had all those little holes in it on the very bottom there, as well as the ninja wrap actually built into it or molded into it. It was a pretty crazy mold that really added to the figure. I'll definitely give credit to the Ghost minifigures of this season, because those were some fantastic minifigures as well, but you have to admit that the evil green ninja minifigure here is just superb. Let's move on to the next season of Ninjago, Skybound, and as I was looking at this season and all the minifigures that came in it, I came across quite a few good ones, but at the same time, I don't know, I couldn't really make a concisive decision. I had immediately thought to pick Nauticon, and as I was looking at him, he does have a lot of really cool features on him, as you can see here, but I ended up winding up with a minifigure you may not have expected. This is Clancy, and maybe I have a little bit of bias towards members of the Serpentine, but this guy was a really cool figure, and I wasn't expecting to have a figure like him whenever Skybound came out, so he was a very nice surprise. Supposedly, he was from the Serpentine, but felt like he didn't fit in there, and ended up joining the Sky Pirates pretty much here with Nauticon. He has a peg leg as well as some cool printing there on the torso. He uses a lime green head of the Anacondrae back from Tournament of Elements that we saw. Overall, a pretty decent looking minifigure, but let's go ahead and move on to the next season. Well, maybe I shouldn't say season, because the next one is a TV special. We have Day of the Departed, and since there was a wave of LEGO sets specifically for this TV special, I decided I'd include it in this video, and I have to say that the best minifigure out of this is Cole RX. We had him in the Rock Rotor, and also consider we also had Lil Nelson in this season. He was a very close second whenever I was trying to figure out who would make the best minifigure spot. I just really like the printing on this figure, as well as those semi-transparent arms that you can kind of see the hands through. That's really cool. He's also got side arm printing on there, and a pretty decently printed torso with that sort of magma or the power behind it. I don't really know what to call it, to be honest. I don't know, Day of the Departed wasn't necessarily the strongest season, but it had some cool minifigures, including Cole RX. Now we're getting a little bit more recent here with Season 7, Hands of Time, and I think you may have thought that the Time Twins were going to make this spot, and in fact they pretty much did, but I had to pick one of them. I can't just pick both of them. In the end, I decided that I would pick Crux, because he did disguise himself as Dr. Saunders. He was basically right there the entire time, and I thought that was really clever, and although we didn't really get this minifigure in front of you, we did get this one. This one's got some crazy printing there on the very top of that headpiece, as well as around the eyes. They're basically the same, let's be honest, the two Time Twins, except for their head, but since I did have to pick one, I did pick Crux here. I think the Time Twins were a pretty interesting concept for villains. I think they could have been worked out a little bit better, to be honest, in my opinion, but in general, I think the minifigures came out really nice, and that's why I ended up picking one of the Time Twins here as the best minifigure for Hands of Time. Let's move on to Season 8, Sons of Garmadon, and I know there were a lot of new Ninjago fans that joined for this season from the LEGO Ninjago movie, which is not a season of Ninjago. It's completely different, and so it's not in this video, but Season 8 here for Sons of Garmadon. There were a lot of good minifigures. I have to admit this is one of the best seasons for minifigures. We got 2 new 4-arm minifigures. We got Mr. E on the left and Garmadon on the right. That new Garmadon minifigure looks really nice. Now let's not forget about Harumi also that joined the season this time, in which this one as Princess Harumi. This is a fantastic figure as well, but I had to pick one. I had to pick one of these figures. I ended up choosing Mr. E just because of just how awesome this guy looks. He looks super tough with that Oni mask of vengeance on here. The color combinations on this minifigure just fit really perfectly, and Mr. E as a character in the TV show was one of my favorites, and so it makes a lot of sense to pick this character here. Like I said, there are a lot of really nice figures from this season, but I think that Mr. E edges them out just a bit. We're getting pretty close to present day Ninjago. We have Season 9 Hunted, and this has got to be one of my favorite seasons of Ninjago as a whole, other than the Serpentine season and Pilot season. If you guys want to see my entire ranking of all the Ninjago seasons, you guys can click the card on screen right now. It's a very interesting video, if I do say so myself. As far as the minifigure for this season, I had to pick the Golden Dragon Master, because let's be honest, this was the minifigure that stood out definitely in the sets. The concept of Wu growing throughout the season I thought was pretty nifty. LEGO really hadn't done much of that before in Ninjago. I thought that was pretty clever, and as far as the minifigure, they definitely did not disappoint. With this golden dragon armor on, and of course the shield along with it, I think this minifigure just looked absolutely phenomenal. I feel like this minifigure was certainly the most desirable out of all the figures from the season, and definitely worthy of this spot. Now, we also have Season 10, March of the Oni. Now, here's where stuff gets kind of interesting, because we had the Legacy sets and we had the Legacy shorts, and we'll talk about Legacy after this one. And, I mean, really, we only have one accessory pack to base this off of, but if I were to choose one of those 3 figures, well, it's gotta be the Omega. We all know that the Omega was basically the main Oni behind it all. He was the main Oni that had all the encounters with Garmadon and Lloyd, created all that action there for Season 10 for those episodes. He is a very cool minifigure, uses that Oni mask piece there with some different printing on it. Since they are very monotone colors other than the pop of color for the eyes, I do think that these guys were made pretty decently for what they were. I mean, you can't make them any cooler than what they are in the show, and I think they did it quite well as far as accuracy goes. And at long last, we made it to Legacy. Technically, it's not really Season 10, but the sets came out at the time that the Season 10 sets should have come out, and like I said, we only got that accessory pack for Season 10, March of the Oni specifically, and so really, you know, you could kind of consider it pretty similar. Out of the sets for Legacy, we got 2 really cool remakes. We have the Overlord over on the left that got revamped with 4 arms this time and some crazy gnarly printing on him, and we have the remake of the Golden Ninja, or the Ultimate Spinjitzu Master of Lloyd, over on the right. I had to pick one of these, and I ended up choosing Golden Lloyd, of course. I just really like these Golden Lloyd minifigures. I think they look really nice. I like the dragons on the torso of this one. If you guys have not already seen my comparison between the old and the new Golden Ninja, you guys can go ahead and check that video out on my channel as well. This one's a pretty interesting figure. I do like how it came out, and of course, those short clips or short episodes, if you want to call them, over on lego.com and other places on YouTube for these Legacy, those like Legacy shorts. I liked them. I thought they were pretty nifty, and here we have the Golden Ninja from that short. Overall, I'm just happy that we did get this remake line of sets for Legacy. It had a lot of nostalgia behind it for me personally, since I've been around in Ninjago for a very long time, since the beginning, and I'm very excited with what LEGO has for Ninjago in the near future. But those are my favorite minifigures from each season of LEGO Ninjago. Be sure to comment your guys' favorite minifigure from each season down below with a comment. Very curious to see what you guys thought of each of these seasons, what figures you preferred, and if it's any different than mine. That's going to wrap it up today for this video. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to drop a like rating down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Go ahead and click one of those. They are clickable, guys. You guys can click those, and that's going to wrap it up here. I'll see you guys in the next video coming very soon.